Good tosser.
Okay. All right, we're about to open the meeting of the Littleton Finance Committee tonight, April 9th. Our agenda is posted. Are a number of presentations or discussions with various town entities who have either a budget article, budget funding, or a warrant article that we want to discuss with them. And while we have them listed in a particular order, I did have requests from a couple of the boards who have conflicting meetings, and I told them it's our practice to allow them to take items out of order so we can accommodate their schedules. But we will be hearing from the Community Preservation Committee, citizens petition folks, which are largely Littleton Conservation Trust members, Board of Health scheduled to be here, Littleton Electric Light and Water Departments, Littleton Commons Sewer Feasibility Study Committee, and I'm not sure if I'll have anyone here specifically from Littleton Community Television.
We are here.
That's right. Okay, well, Mark is here. Good. Okay, great. A new addition to our town budget structure, so we wanted to have a conversation with those folks. Following those presentations and following our discussions last week and throughout the budget process, we will be taking formal votes of recommendation on the various warrant articles that we find we want to take a position on, and that'll allow the town report to be sent off to the printers, what, by Friday, Keith?
Friday.
Okay, and you did send us some updates on positions the board has taken, some articles were withdrawn, etc., so I'll be looking for your guidance along the way, just to remind us on some of that. There's been a flurry of activity within the past few days, which is not unusual. And we will also address minutes and old business as the board would like. So first up, let's see, who did I first of these? Sewer, let's see, the first, community preservation. That's, you guys are meeting tonight, so we will offer you a chance to go first. All right, I understand actually there's been some change with your article too, is that correct? Or?
I don't
No,
think so.
okay, all right.
I think everything is in there now.
All right.
At least I would expect so. Keith just gave me the copy from the
Just
town.
refresh us, Jeff, what article is that, so we can...
It is Article 13.
For the record, we have what, Jeff Feehan and Don McIver. Anyone else from your committee here with us? All right.
Not that I know of.
Okay, then we had that last meeting. Warrant article. Okay, thank you.
Copies of this.
Maybe the article numbers have changed. The Article 13 is the home rule petition as we have it listed here. Yours is the, in any event, your CPC budget. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can talk about the home rule petition too if you...
Well, no, we'll start with your budget. We have the information in front of us. The total of $403,238. That's still current number.
Yeah,
Okay.
that hasn't changed.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you intend to expend any of those monies this year, or what your
Well, as
plan?
it states here, it's pretty self-explanatory. In the first part, the administration fee, $5,000, and that has to be approved every year at town meeting, and that's funds available for the CPC to use for, just as it says, administrative. If we should have legal fees come up for something, we can use it for consultants on projects, say for a housing project. There are certain ways we can do that. So we pay for the membership in the Community Preservation Coalition out of that, so that's what that is for. And then there are debt service on open space. Do you want me to go through the numbers?
We've reviewed the numbers, so I think the various debt service, unless the board has any particular interest in those are already previously voted.
I can ramble on, or if you have specific
No,
questions.
it's more, I guess, probably the new items, Jeff.
Okay.
The FY14 ones, of housing and the clerk.
Okay, the Regional Housing Service, we're going to be part of a collaborative, I believe it's through Magic, that we can actually, let Keith talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there is another article relevant to that, isn't there, or was?
No, this is the one, that the town of Littleton and some of the other towns in the Magic subregion of MAPC are working together to establish a regional housing services office to be able to keep better track of deed restrictions and all the other legal documents that, and rental agreements, all the things that go into keeping affordable housing units affordable and keeping them on the subsidized housing inventory. That there's a successful model that Sudbury has set up serving 6 towns. We're trying to replicate that model with the remaining towns. Hudson at this point is the lead community in issuing a request for proposals. Littleton and some other towns are involved in that. The key, though, is that it requires effort to ensure that the affordable housing units remain eligible to be counted on our inventory. And the stakes are high, because if they fall off, then there's the risk at some point of falling below 10%. The host community agreement the selectmen entered into for 15 Ray Road provides certain assurances, in essence, that will stay above 10%, but that only has, because we've gone from 8.45% up to 13.97% with those additional 190 rental units. But if those units are converted from rental to owner occupied, then we only can count, we can't count all of them anymore. We have a contractual agreement to keep us above 10%, but the town is responsible for keeping the non-15 Great Road units affordable. And so we want to, and we're not doing a good job at monitoring them right now, that it requires specialized services that Sudbury has been able to find and figure out how to do it, and we're trying to replicate the model for ourselves to be able to keep those units affordable. The 15,000 we think is going to be an annual, the ballpark of what an annual cost is for the service, and initially at least, and perhaps in the future as well, we'd be looking to pay for that from community preservation housing funds. It is eligible. It's how a number of the other communities are paying for the service. So.
Okay. I think it's worth repeating every time we deal with the subject of CPC that the dictates of state law is that there are 4 different components that can be funded. Is that right? There's open space preservation, housing, historical preservation, and what have I?
Recreation.
And recreation. And no one of those can be more than 80%, and none can be less than 10% of your expenditures.
Well, the housing, open space, and historic have to be at least 10%,
Yep.
and the remaining 70% can be spent on any one of those 3 or recreation.
Okay.
That's in what's called the budgeted reserve.
Right. Okay.
Paul, can I?
Sure.
Keith, this regional operation is separate from the governor's recommended regionalization of housing directives?
It's quite separate. Yeah, this is much more grassroots, whereas the governor's proposal would be sort of a top-down regionalization of the housing authorities, which don't, I mean, frankly, if we were near a housing authority that had the capacity to provide these services, I'd just contract with them. But you don't have that, and a lot of the communities in our area don't have that expertise. We have to go out and find it.
Have you had discussions out with Mike Borzick? I mean, I know he's part-time and splits his time.
Yes, and he's been part of the process.
He's the director of the
Sherry
Housing
Gould and other staff here were part of the feasibility study that the Magic subregion did of all the unserved towns to try to put the pieces together for a regional housing services office. And it's not a level of service that we could contract with our housing authority to do. I'm not sure, someday I've made the pitch at MAPC executive board meetings that if the governor's going to regionalize things, maybe we can throw these services into the regional office he creates, but it's sort of one step at a time. Right now, we don't have the service provided well. We need to do a better job, and here's a model of how we can use housing funds, and we're not spending on anything else, to buy needed services to keep those units affordable.
And notwithstanding what might happen with state housing agencies, we have Chapter 40B obligations we've got to meet.
We have to meet those even now, and if we don't, I mean, there have been cases, not in this town, but in others, where properties you thought were deed restricted weren't, or there wasn't an ironclad document, and you thought it was permanent, but after 20 years, suddenly it went away, and, these are the myriad of things that we have to manage and monitor.
Okay. Is there anything in the agreement that the selectmen signed that would bind the town beyond this year's appropriation?
No.
This has to be done every year.
Yeah, it will be every year, yeah.
All right. Any other questions on that item? All right. I think we're familiar from the clerk's presentation earlier in the budget process, but if you want to speak to that expenditure too, the dehumidifier?
Yeah, there are 2 vaults in Town Hall that hold all the town's treasures, past and present, and the present ones will become past ones at some point. And if we don't preserve them properly, then they won't become past, present, or whatever. They'll deteriorate. So effectively, the climate control units is one in each vault failing. And the one in the upstairs vault in Diane's office is critical, so that we have funded $20,000 to put the proper system in there. The unit in the basement, we feel, can wait another year or so to do that.
And that's been long-standing. I mean, I think this was raised as an issue last time I was on this board.
I'm sorry to hear you.
I said, I think this was raised as an issue last time I was on this board. So, I mean, I'm glad to see
Yeah,
you taking these steps.
yeah.
It's the first time where we've dealt with it, but it's
The
ongoing.
documents are even more historic now.
Even more?
This vault is a room, I assume? You're not talking about a little box someplace?
Oh, no,
It's a big
no,
room,
no.
right?
They
Lots and
are
lots of-
vaults. They are in fact vaults. Right down the hall here, if you go in the double door there, I shouldn't be telling everybody this.
Not twice.
And the combination.
We won't divulge the combination. The one downstairs, they are real vaults, and then the other one is directly over it, because when Town Hall was modified from the old school, it was all done one on top of the other in that fashion. So, that's, any other questions on that? Okay, and then 300 King Street, $200,000. And what that is to aid Park and Recreation Department in their project on 300 King Street, which behind Fred is a conceptual drawing of what they're looking for. That's, again, conceptual. There's nothing set in stone there.
What do you have a specific aim for the $200,000 that's being spent? Is this for engineering or?
It's to be used effectively as they need, but yeah, it's being used to be engineering, design services. We need to have wetlands identified, flagged, a lot of things like that, preliminary stuff, and then as far as they can get into it.
If this, assuming this appropriation goes through, what's the control on that? Because I mean, the language here is, no fault to you folks, but it's a lot more vague than we often have with numbers.
Control
that
and
size.
what?
I mean, as far as after the appropriation is made.
Oh, it's going to be worked with the Permanent Municipal Building Committee.
So is that correct, Keith? or-
Yes, it is, yeah.
And the standard process that they follow in if they were doing a building rehab
Right.
project or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So typically it will be somewhere the
So
word
it
is.
helps that Jeff is on both committees.
Right.
It does, doesn't it? Seems that happens a lot.
Now, it's funny you should mention, I'm actually going to ask this question of whoever, whether it's the selectman, town administrator, or CPC committee. I know there was a former member of the finance committee, Elliot Putnam, who, does he continue to serve?
Yes,
with
he
the committee?
does.
All right. Well, I'm trying to recall whether the article that
It doesn't specify a
doesn't
seat
specify?
of the
Okay.
finance committee, although at the time we originally appointed the 4 at-large members, because there are 4 seats
Right.
that are required for Housing Authority and Planning Board, Historical Commission.
Conservation.
Conservation, and I forget what the other one is. But that the 4 at-large positions, the board wanted to have someone with a finance background on. And actually, I think what happened is that Elliot enjoyed being on CPC and maybe not so much on FinCom.
Gee, he didn't phrase it to us that way.
So he wanted to continue to serve on CPC.
That's because CPC met the same night we did, so he was never
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody here is crying out to have another responsibility. I think we're mostly interested in making sure that the dialogue continues, so maybe something as simple as if you folks could CC us every time you have minutes, then we can stay updated on a more regular
Yeah,
basis.
the minutes are on the
Well, I know
website.
that, I know that. So are a lot of things on the website,
Yeah.
it's a big website.
Go fish.
Yeah, go fish, okay. Well, we can address that one.
I'll bring that up
Yeah.
tonight at the meeting, and it'll be in our minutes, and we'll see that you get them.
Okay. Proactively, we could go hunt you down, I suppose, but I think it's probably just, if there's something of, of interest,
Yeah.
let us know, keep us on the radar screen, I guess, How about the actual disposition of the accounts right now? What's the status and the projection?
As it says here, we have nothing in reserves for open space, nothing for the $13,400 for community housing, and $88,800 to budgeted reserve. So, I guess I don't have figures on what our anticipated.
Bonnie had provided us with an update.
Yeah, I think she's
Yeah.
estimating after this budget is done, so it's $400,000 or so
Yeah,
Okay.
as a balance.
so we haven't
Somewhere
got
in
that
And
yet.
obviously, how Article 13 plays out affects that significantly too, or should. Any other questions?
The 400,000 is after Article 13?
Yeah, after
Yes.
the spending
Okay.
plan is done.
Okay.
Any other questions for the CPC? There is the other article there, Article 11. Is that, that's the
You
transfer?
may be looking at an older.
Yeah.
An older number.
I'm looking here at 2 articles, Article 11 and Article 12. The article,
The final numbering is, there, you add 1 to each of those, because we moved an article into the number 8 position from earlier. But the warrant as posted, this CPC budget is Article 13.
13, and there's only the one article?
Yeah, the Article 12, which was pulled, it was our hope to be able to take advantage of last year's amendments to the Community Preservation Act and deposit $270,000 in our local fund. Problem is that you can now push that off by 1.5 years, thanks to the fact that the Department of Revenue has not yet issued guidelines on how we implement the CPA amendments passed last year. They're several months away from doing that, but the indication that they're giving us now, and I've been in touch with our state senator about this also, is that there will be several more hoops to jump through before we can actually be putting money in the fund. So the one thing that's clear, though, is that we cannot take an action at this town meeting that sets the money aside as we intended. So we'll be back in the fall to put it somewhere else.
Okay.
So Keith, just regarding just looking at the email on the 22nd where the warrants were closed, since that list, the only delta is to add something at item 8?
No.
Well, no, that the Board of Selectmen, on the 22nd, what you got on the 22nd was the articles that closed with the proviso that the selectmen determine the order in which they appear. So on the 25th of March, the selectmen moved them around. And the final numbering is what's got posted on the 26th. And that, I think we just made one change, that we moved an article into the number 8 position, which renumbered what was 8, 9, 10, and, just some number. So it's the same number of articles. The one thing that has changed, that I emailed folks about, there were 3 articles, just for information's sake, there were 3 articles that are being pulled from the warrant. The special town meeting 9, which is from the water department. They were proposing a water betterment on Gilson Road. They met with the neighbors, not ready to proceed, so that project won't be going forward, and that article is getting pulled. So the Board of Selectmen voted to withdraw it last time. The other 2 articles are in the annual town meeting warrant, which is, and I'll use the new numbering as posted, it's the annual Article 12, which is Community Preservation Local Fund Appropriation. That's been pulled pending, further guidelines from the Department of Revenue. And the other article that has been pulled, that was pulled last night, was what appears in the warrant as posted as Article 8, which is the borrowing article for Littleton Common Smart Sewer and Preliminary Design. That article was pulled. So those 3 articles, there will be no action taken on.
Thank you.
And conceivably others. I mean, we're not anticipating any, but...
Well, there may be others as well, that there are, it's not a financial article, but we know, for example, that there are at least 2 zoning amendments which are unlikely to actually have a hearing by the planning board before town meeting convenes, and the town cannot vote on an article that hasn't been heard by planning.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. The next article in the warrant, whatever it's numbered, is the home petition. And I consider that a friendly petition, so at least in terms of the Community Preservation Committee, but it was a home rule petition, so since it's directly germane to the Community Preservation Committee's potential spending, I'd like to hear that next, and I recognize we have both Rick Finley and Don MacGyver from Littleton Conservation Trust. I don't know if there are other folks representing the petitioners or not, but Tom, are you here with those folks too? No? All right. We did get a memo from you, and I understand the changes. Pretty straightforward, but whoever would like to address it, feel free.
You done with me, Paul?
Yeah, maybe we'll be voting later. Good to see you, Jeff.
I know all about this, I don't need to have it more. Thank you.
Yep.
It is pretty straightforward. We are anticipating major expenditures for land preservation, the agricultural land along 119, and playing fields. We've got needs for them, and we're on track to be getting some in the near future, but they're going to be major expenditures. And first place we go to has always been CPA funds. So when we set up the CPA, we did not assess businesses, and we decided it was time to chip in because we desperately need the money. And so they will be assessed as we are, and that will increase our money by about 50%. So
I'll tell you, I just personally, it was a surprise to me when this issue was raised. I frankly was not even aware that the one classification of the tax levy was had the CPA applied to it, and the other CPC applied to it, and the other didn't. And I don't remember that being part of the debate initially. Was it just oversight, or?
initially, the selectmen were not that supportive of it initially, so we bent over backwards to help every group, including business. So at that time, we decided not to assess businesses, not realizing that we were going to possibly be the only town doing CPA that wasn't doing that.
Right.
But We
Yeah.
are, at the moment, one of very, very few towns, 3 or 4, that don't tax businesses. And so it's
3 or
time.
4 of, and there's what, in excess of
155.
155 across the Commonwealth?
And just to give you an example, one town that doesn't do it is Nantucket, and you think of it, yeah, they have a very short season for
Right.
seasonal business, and the other business, like a grocery store, they have to bring everything in over the water, so they give them a break. And they have trophy homes, $7 million homes, so they go after those folks.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, it fits their
So there's a
situation.
local logic to that anyway. Okay. I know this is a citizen's petition and you're not obligated, but have you presented to the selectmen since they?
I presented to them initially, telling them that we were going to go forward with it.
Okay.
Right.
There was no action for the board to take, although, and the petition that you're talking about is not in the warrant.
Right, that's right, it's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot. It's ballot question 1 out of a total of 1 questions, and the board.
And that's by law, it's not a local option
Yeah,
on that.
yes, that where the requisite number of signatures were received on a petition, it was 5, it has to be 5%.
5%.
The total number of registered voters, that was over 300.
It was like 320,
Yeah.
but it literally, we got tremendous support, like 1 in 10 did not support it, as we were sitting at the dump.
So that was met, and so the question will come on the May 11th election ballot. It will not come up at town meeting.
Right.
That there, at least for the outright adoption of the Community Preservation Act, you have the option to go the petition route rather than town meeting as your first step. But the second step must be a ballot question. So, so that will come up, and it's about, I think it's about $60,000.
65.
Or
Yeah,
65, 68.
that the assessor had estimated would come, because it's assessing the 1% surcharge, but it's also exempting the first 100,000.
For small
Right.
Which
businesses.
is the same, is that the same?
It's the same as residential, but it's new, in that that exemption did not exist for commercial property prior to last year's CPA amendment, so.
Yeah, which is one of the
that-
reasons why we did not include it, because you didn't want to hit small businesses. Also, it's worthwhile knowing that this doesn't hit home businesses, because those are classified as homes, residential, not commercial, industrial. So, and this is exactly the same way it originally was brought in by the ballot box, so it'd be equal across the board.
Okay, yeah, I think it's,
So assuming that it passes in May, what is the next step? It comes back to the fall town meeting to get town meeting, or is
No,
it just?
it doesn't have to.
No, if it gets approved in May, then we start collecting with the next
First of July,
fiscal
whatever,
year.
yeah, next fiscal year.
Yeah.
does everyone fully understand the issue and the process? Any further questions? All right, well, we will be identifying warrant articles we would make a recommendation on. I'm not sure what our position may well be here, but I doubt would surprise you anyway.
Yeah, in the initial passage, you did support it. Took a while to get everyone on board, but yeah, everyone did support it.
Well, I wasn't here then, but
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, good. If there's anything further, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We're doing good on time. We had scheduled the next group that I promised would get in early was the Littleton Common Sewer Feasibility Study Committee, which does not lend itself to an easy acronym, so I'm sorry I have to read the whole title. And we are aware that within the past day or so, you folks have made a decision not to go forward with the article as it had appeared on the warrant, but you had requested, again, Chairman is Megan Ford and other members of the committee present, Rich Crowley from the planning board, Bob Zimmerman, a consultant to the project. Okay.
We have Julie Wood, who is a senior scientist at CRWA, who's also been
Great.
very helpful to us.
Okay, and the request was made, as much as we were looking for the sewer study committee to make a presentation to us, that now that they're withdrawing the article, they still want to make a presentation to us, so I don't know if there's anything further you want in terms of introduction, other than to say the floor is yours.
All right, well, I thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for still giving us the time to talk, even though we're no longer on the warrant, because I appreciate that you have a packed schedule tonight, so I will try to keep this brief. But the reason why we withdrew was so that we could have more time to give people an update on what this committee has been doing, our background, who we are, and what we've been talking about. So I want to take the time to do that as much as possible, and I might actually request to come back at the end of summer, beginning of fall, to refresh people about this. So I just want to give some background. Back in 2008, the MAPC had been working with the town to do some rezoning, and basically they made a recommendation to the town that we should do a sewer feasibility study. And in May 2010, the voters at that town meeting, the large majority of them voted to move forward with a sewer study. And the whole purpose was to promote economic development, which would be bringing revenue back to the town. So I actually am a citizen, and I'm now the chairperson of this, but I'm a citizen at large, and at that town meeting I spoke out about concerns. Why not do an economic study first? Why not do a market study first? I wrote a letter to the editor. And as a skeptic of why are we jumping to this feasibility study on sewers, I was asked to join the committee, and I did, and I've been on it since day one for almost 3 years now. What we were charged with was determining if a sewer system could be feasible in the town common. And from the get-go, our committee said the criteria for feasibility is if it can be paid for by the users of the system, approximately 100 or 98 property owners in the common area, period. If it has to go to the rest of the town, the homeowners, the taxpayers, then it's not going to be feasible. So we wanted to find out, can there be a limited sewer district that is feasible within that criteria? We received $50,000 from the taxpayers at that 2010 meeting, and we immediately started working with CRWA. Bob Zimmerman is actually a resident here in town. I'm sure many of you know that already. And we were really, I actually think it's a great thing that we got this $100,000 grant from the Bar Association, because we now are able to we produced a study that is 3 times the amount of what the taxpayers could have produced. And this study is very valuable. It's something that is not like a conventional sewer system like what Tewksbury and what Acton and other towns have, where they built it and there's so much capacity that they're not even using half of it. This is a whole different system where instead of building it so that they will come, which was my concern, it's build it for what's there, what's needed, and if they come, you build a little bit more. And it's built in small phases. This is the diagram that I like to show for how something like this works. And basically, our committee is at the very top here. We came up with a conceptual feasibility study. And we do believe that we have a concept that could be feasible, but we won't know until we get more details. And the only way to get more details is to move forward with a preliminary design, which is the orange right here. And without moving forward to actually see if the 98 property owners really will commit, we won't know if it is feasible or not to kind of zoom in and construct. Now, if from your perspective, the phase 2, which is what we will be voting on in the fall town meeting, which is what we would have been voting on Article 8, is actually itself phased. So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2. So the money that we will be asking for, if we get halfway through that project and we find that it's not feasible to move on, we're going to ask to stop and say we're not going to move forward. If it is found to be feasible and we get commitments from the property owners and it can be paid for by the users of the system, then it goes to full construction, and the users of the system will be absorbing that money. And the way Bonnie explained it to me is that if we get halfway through it and we say it's not feasible, then the taxpayers have to pay that money. There's a risk. But if we find that it is feasible and we move forward, then it's the users of the system that are paying for it, the property owners. Stop me if you have any questions, but the
I would ask you, though, the question, not so much an opportunity to to let folks know who are here or watching that that information is on a website you have, because you gave us a link to that.
Yes, we do have a website, and I've been monitoring it. It's villagecommonssewer.com, and we have been receiving on average about 100 hits a day, but I do appreciate the fact that a lot of people are not online, so that's why I want to take this time over the summer to go face-to-face and meet with people, so that people that may not be able to access the internet, we can talk to them too. And one of the things that has been concerned, people are saying, how are the 98 property owners going to be able to afford this? Well, it's proportional. So this is just an example, just a visual. So this is Wells IBM. If they use that much, that's how much they would have to pay. If this is the Point in Sam Park and they use that much, that's how much they would have to pay. All the other small property owners, if they use that much, that's how much they will have to pay. So it's proportional. It's not divided evenly across all the 98 users. So this is a concept that could work, and our committee has found that it seems worth it to want to get the real numbers now. And the only way to do that is to actually move on. So we just want people to fully understand that when they do come to vote on this, what they're voting on. We're not voting to sewer, because if we get to the point where we find the numbers say it's not going to be feasible, nobody on our committee is going to say, well then let's go ahead and sewer anyway. I live across the street. I'm a taxpayer. I actually am a business owner. And I'm a business owner in a property where my landlord lives out of town, and he really wants this system. He said that Littleton taxes are very high compared to Concord, but the septic system is limiting that building. I'm at 435 King Street, and when I moved in, I'm considered medical because I'm an audiologist. Right now, he can't have anything else because I just put the septic system to its full capacity for that building. So all he can have are office people. He can't have another medical. He can't have like an optician or somebody or can't come in there. He can't have any restaurants. He wants to be able to offer that to his future potential tenants. But there's limitations, and he would promote it. Now, there's no conflict for me as a business owner, because if anything, I might be at risk. My rent could go up if he is paying a betterment, and so there's some pros and cons to all of this. So I just want it to be clear what we're doing and what people are voting for. So there's a lot of misconceptions going around, and I just want to let everyone know that they're welcome to talk to me or any other members of our committee to ask any questions, because this is a lot for people to understand. And there's a lot of moving parts. And part of why we had to ask to postpone is because we were in the midst of doing a lot of other stuff with RFQs and whatnot while we were all trying to prepare to inform the public. So I apologize if you haven't heard about it until now. But I do want to make myself available all summer long to talk about this. I'm willing to sit down and meet for coffee or whatnot. Any questions?
One anyway. I think we're happy to give you the time to make your pitch, and if there's specific purviews on the financial implications. But and to that end, the question I have is, Littleton's certainly not the first town to consider sewering district. We may, someday be the last, but there are other towns around us, such as Harvard, have recently implemented sewer district. I assume you've done some field research with other communities in the area?
We walked all around Acton. We went on a field trip to Acton sewer system. We learned all about a conventional sewer system and why that would not work here. It wouldn't be feasible here. All the taxpayers are paying for something that is, I think, 10 or 20% of it is being used right now. And then they have a system that's not necessarily good for the environment. I didn't mention anything about the environment, but a large part of this of our particular study is really healthy for the environment. It's not the main reason why we wanted to do this, but actually talking to Savas, there are concerns about the nitrates in our wells. And so what Acton does is, from what I understand as a citizen, it takes the water from Acton, dumps it into a river that goes to another watershed in a different town, and it offsets the water balance, and it's not what nature intended. The system we're looking at would actually put the water back into our watershed, and it regenerates. It actually makes the water so much better. So our lakes would be improved, our drinking water, our wells would be safe. It would take care of any nitrate concerns that we have. So there's that whole aspect of it that is a benefit. but not necessarily the reason why we got into this.
Okay, but as it concerns the other towns, whether it's Acton or I don't know how far along they are up in Harvard, is the financial modeling, are we following norms, are your proposals following norms in terms of
Ours-
who pays for it and all that?
You know what, ours is probably different, and I'm not 100% sure how the other towns are doing it, but I know that we are asking not the entire town, and from what, I've read about studies in other towns, even in California, where there's Los Osos has a sewering controversy. There's a book written about it on Amazon.com. They, back in 1983, could have done a sewer for free, and the town was against it. They didn't want to see change. And now they have to, because the nitrates are so bad, they have to. Nobody can drink the water. You can't touch the water. And now every homeowner has to pay for it, like $165. So I know that there are other models out there, and it's not what we're looking at. The fact that we're asking just the users of the system to pay for this is great. And that's our determining factor of whether or not it's feasible. And I also, it would be built in phases. It's not build it and they will come. We're not asking to build something that's looking out for what could come in 20 years. We're building it for what's there now, and it's built in a system that it would be phased in little pods. So if people did want to come and they want to hook up, they could. We would just have to build it as it's needed. So in incremental steps along the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
I mean, do you have any models or projections of the fiscal benefit to the town?
Well, I've been doing some studies myself on that, because I really think that that's what this is all going to boil down to. In my opinion, the economics is what attracted me to this. I have a link to some impact studies so the MAPC is really the people that study this economic development. Part of what they asked us in our zoning to do was to create a mixed-use town common area, village, because studies show that mixed use brings money, it gets people spending money in their own town. And then those businesses are paying taxes to the town, which goes back to the town, which then can pay for our schools and our fire department and whatnot. So there are a bunch of studies out there. I have a link to it. I could send you a link so that you could read about it, but I think it's something that's been looked at and studied by economists. We did hire an economist, Don Zizzi from BU, as part of the study that we did. And we looked at some of this. So it's not like we're just guessing that this could be good for the town.
If I could add, Megan's exactly right. The analysis, I guess the way to think about it is that 20-year build-out. So full build-out for the town, greatest density that it could be under the zoning that was passed in
The
2010.
potential 20-year build-out, right?
If that were to occur tomorrow, and the town were to collect the fees associated with that density, it would be, it's around, I think, a $3 million spike to, I think it's what, we collect 14.5 now, 14.5 million now on property taxes. So an additional 3 million in property taxes would be collected at current rates.
This is old information, but I remember from an earlier iteration when I was on the selectmen and we were both on the Economic Development Committee, Brian and I, the sewer, the impact of sewer and that, and this information is 8 to 10 years old. We had the assessor's office run potential assessments if they were sewering, were available to some of the properties there. And on a number of the properties, applying that factor to it, nearly doubled the assessment on a number of the properties there. Now, that's anecdotal, but that's the sort of study I hope we'll have.
And that's what I'd be looking for. And I think I'd be looking to compare not, current versus potential 100% everything gets built out to the max. I'd rather see what the delta is that can be directly or reasonably attributed to sewering. Because, Shazam would have sewer. That doesn't mean every single property gets max built out.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I guess I want to see that because as much as you say this is paid for by the 98 property owners, except for the $500,000 that...
No, that's folded into the total. If I'm sorry, Megan, go
No,
ahead.
no, yeah, I mean, is that what this
But
part
but
here?
Megan did say that.
You said, so the 500,000 that approximately that we would be asking the town to vote for. First of all, it's phased, so if we get through phase one, it's only half that amount. If we get through it and we find it's feasible and it goes to full construction, that is paid for by the users of the system. The only time the town would be at risk is if we find it's not feasible.
So,
stop.
so the 500,000 gets paid back.
Yes.
Yes.
Should only be
but,
250,
I mean,
right?
I think it's worth, I think it's worth the basic understanding that there will be, there's many steps to go before we're actually building a sewer and have
Actually-
and have sewer users. There is the.
These are the many steps.
Yeah, okay, but just.
Right, but
just-
we've all seen projects get a life of their own.
But just
So-
to highlight a couple, because this goes to the risk factor, which I know is a concern in the community. Even, it is the intent of the feasibility study, that at the end, the sewer be up and operating and paid for by all the users. And if we get to the point where we're up and operating, we built it and it's operating, it will be paid for by the users. However, there are some steps before there where we will have go, no-go decisions made, and we may choose to go at one level, and let's say, go for the $500,000 or so at the fall town meeting, but even if it's feasible and we don't get the go to then build it for however many $1 million, then you don't have users. Even if you do vote to, so there are a number of things along the way. You could give the design money and then it's not feasible, so you don't have users. You can give the design money and it is feasible, and you go to construct but you don't get funded, then you have no users. And so that the risk, so there is a risk, and no one's hiding it. We're saying that if we spend additional money to study the question, because we've done it from 30,000 feet, we've got to get a little closer to the ground to make sure that it's feasible on the ground. And that's going to cost money. It's going to cost in the neighborhood of $500,000 to get us that information. And the risk is that if we don't ultimately have sewer users to pass the cost on to, it would have to be paid for by the property tax. That's just the simple answer. We can lessen the impact by spreading it out over time. We can identify, one-time funding sources that we might use to do it, so we don't have to raise property taxes. But from the pure point of will the sewer users pay, yes, they will if all the pieces line up. And if they don't all line up, then the town would have to cover those costs that we've incurred.
Right. That's all I was going for. I'm just looking for, there's an opportunity cost of $500,000.
It is, right, and we have to study to know, but, and I appreciate very much.
That's actually the best way to say it, too.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and it's the opportunity cost, and then what the questions are suggesting is, show us what the gain would be for
Yes.
the opportunity cost that we're being asked to incur. Oh, excellent, great. Let's engage,
Right,
that's worth engaging on that
and
question.
so the part that I'm just a little puzzled on is, I'm an engineer, I get design, love design, but the trade-off of financial impact, assuming everything goes well, versus opportunity cost, I'm a little surprised that seems to have to wait until after the full design of the system. I mean, put it this way. I think if at this point or before the 500,000, if we could have some conversation where you say, here's the financial impact and gains we likely case expect, and it's X millions, thousands, whatever, and that's before we spend the $500,000. I think that's the sort of things that could convince people.
Right.
So those numbers are available. That's
Yeah.
chapter 5 in the study, which is available at limpvillagecommonssewer.com. If you go directly to chapter 5, which is the economic chapter, there's a series of tables in there that show all of the relative costs under, I think, 18 or 19 scenarios. Conventional sewering versus smart sewering. It breaks it down on whether you get public financing or private financing or public-private partnerships.
On that point, might I just suggest, and I want to, I don't lose sight of the fact that we're having a very, as our former town moderator would say, fulsome discussion on a subject that's actually not going to be voted on this month. That being said, I think you've keyed on some important things. One, there's a tremendous level of complexity here in the town. People have a right to be skeptical until they understand it, I think. And two, you have a lot of good information, but the nature of information on the web I'm finding in my business these days is it's nice for it to be there, but you gotta push market a lot more, I think. So whether it's getting around, I think what you're doing here tonight is of tremendous value, and I hope I encourage you to go to as many other boards, or opportunities to get in front of crowds, whether it's town and government boards or organizations such as the Rotary or school groups, etc. Everybody's got a stake in this potential outcome one way or the other. But as far as some of the facts that you're referencing, Bob, I mean, any of that stuff that specific to the financing mechanisms and the potential values, it's great that the link is there, but send it along to us in that old-fashioned email form too.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea. The other thing is
Megan's
done a great
information's on the
job.
internet, that doesn't help us.
Yeah, Megan's done a great job
Yes.
in breaking out on, rather than read the study, because the study is an engineering document, let's face facts, and an economics document. The frequently asked questions there and the responses to them are probably the easiest place to go for any resident to get a complete
Right.
understanding of what's been done and what the risks are.
But assume that we can read the finance part.
Yes. Chapter
Okay.
5.
We'll try to get everybody once again, board members who, Fred?
Assuming Chapter 5 gives us a reasonable financial picture of where you are now and what you think the system could do for the town, what are we spending $500,000 on?
A preliminary design, which is, there's a lot to it. I can just read you some of this. It will be reviewing previous information, develop the basis of design, evaluate the discharge requirements, develop treatment process design, develop collection system plan, environmental regulatory review, develop cost financial model, complete discharge site studies. We started some of those on our committee. We did some test pits. Develop a preliminary design, develop an implementation plan, public engagement, project management, and then it actually gets broken down even in more detail, which there's a lot to it.
How is
Can
that
I put it in one sentence?
Yeah.
So when we did this analysis with the BU economist and Natural Systems Utilities and my staff, we had conversations with Sam Park at The Point, with Jim Dean at Wells, which is the real estate trust that owns the IBM property, and with most of the property owners in town. There's a difference between a conversation, an expression of interest, and a contract. And the preliminary design report, one, they need to do the actual siting of where facilities will be, remembering that the majority of the facility already exists in the two big treatment plants that are downtown, the one that on the IBM property and the new one that Sam Park is currently building. Those are incorporated into this new facility. But getting from conversation to contract on the basis of actual design is really what the preliminary design report is all about.
But where did that estimate come from, Bob? Or,
Go ahead.
Last year, we did a mailing out to all of the property owners, and it was just a survey. And are you interested, if there were a sewer, would you be interested, not interested, or do you need more information?
The $500,000 number, that's what I'm
Oh,
looking
I'm
for.
sorry.
Comes from a guy named Mike Dominica. He's a consultant to the committee. He runs a lot of resources associates. He's probably the best in the state.
We
this
hired
kind of
him
stuff.
as our owner's rep to figure out that number.
I just always cite this example, if I don't cite it, I'm thinking it, and that when the renovation of this building occurred from the Shattuck Street School to the present offices we know now, some old graybeards will remember this, there were originally two proposals. One was to remodel it for a cost of, at that time, the shocking $1.2 million, and there was a lesser proposal of $800,000. We opted for the $800,000, and I remember at the grand ribbon cutting and opening, I asked the architect, what would have been different if we got the 1.2 million? So basically the same thing with a lot of extras. So I thought that was, it's always stuck in my mind 15, 20 years later.
Yeah, well, we hired.
$500,000, who's getting those $500,000 in checks? What are they,
We hired-
engineers?
Yeah, so we hired the owner's rep, Mike Dominica, to come up with that number, which is actually, I think, I've been told that it's a very smart thing to do, because then that's going to leave less variability. And so we have an RFQ subcommittee, a request for qualification subcommittee, and they actually just met tonight to decide on the top three out of, I forget, 6 different engineering firms submitted. And so out of those top 3, then we can offer to them to do this PDR. And they now, because we have the number, will know that number and it'll be public. So they're not going to come out with this huge variability. But if we didn't have that number, or if we didn't hire someone to really do this number and work at that number, then we might end up with more variability. So it was, I think, a smart and economical thing for us to do. It was a good investment.
Paul, I'm in the construction business. I'm a project manager in the construction business, and we when we did, I say we, I'm also on the permanent municipal building committee and the school building committee. When we did a similar study to the Russell Street School, the cost of doing this exact same type of study we did at the Russell Street School, and it was between $450 and $500. The Massachusetts School Building Authority requires all of their projects to do this step along the way. You have a feasibility study, then you have the next step up, which is, we call it a schematic design. Takes the project from feasibility to schematic design, or maybe design development. And those, in that study, you actually create the model that you're going to build on paper. It involves lots of engineers, lots of disciplines, field study, and compiling all that along with financial information. So it's a fairly complex thing. It's done all the time for every single school in the state of Massachusetts before the schools get to a point where you put them out for bid, and they're all around $400,000, $500,000, $600,000.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's saying that design isn't necessary. I mean, design's absolutely necessary. I mean, of course, I mean, you wouldn't hopefully dream of building a system like this without having done design. It just, I'll just speak for myself. It feels like there are some steps between now and then, like, seeing the financial impact, seeing, getting just a sense of it. Is the town even interested in? Another question, but I'll defer because I've asked a couple questions.
That's fine.
Yeah, your point's well taken about the school and about the preliminary design. But going into that, we knew we were going to do this. We had to do the preliminary design, but we were going to renovate that school. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the question is, have we decided already that we're going to build a sewer system? Otherwise, why are we going to spend $500,000 to do a preliminary design? Are we convinced already that it's workable?
I think that's a very good question, because not a lot of people, I think, agree that if there could be a feasible system, is that economic benefit worth it? Do people really believe there is an economic benefit? Well, there's a couple answers to that. I mean, first of all, we have to find out if it's paid for by the users of the system. So if it can't be, then no, it's definitely not going to be feasible. The other thing is, do you believe that if there was a sewer system in town and some of these businesses filled in some of the vacancies that are there, or possibly rebuilt within the new zoning laws, something that, like a restaurant, something that would be very good for economics in the town, that money, I believe, is gonna come back. If there were some mixed use, if there were some apartment buildings and had people that lived there that could walk around, I think that there are studies that show that that would be economically beneficial to the town. So if we can answer that feasibility study question, can it be paid for by the users of the system, then I believe, yes, that it would be beneficial.
And I don't want to speak for Alan, but maybe a way to rephrase it is, when the question's put before the town, I think, again, this is my personal opinion, that the committee that's studying it ought to decide, either you're advocating for it or you're not. And the assumption ought to be when a vote comes up of any amount of money, granted it could be $200,000, halfway through the project, pull the plug, we eat that and live and learn.
No,
But if it's going forward, then I think the pitch ought to be, predicated on the financial, on the numbers working with the 98 property owners. We think it's the right thing to do for reasons A, B, and C, or not, but I think when it comes up for a vote, there ought to be a sense,
Well,
are we doing this or not doing
When
this?
you say advocating for it,
The sewer system.
so we're not even there yet, though. We're
Well,
advocating
then that's
whether.
good reason it's not on the warrant for
Right.
Well, I think there's a difference between a feasibility study and a design. I mean, again, I'm an engineer. I mean, we decide whether we're gonna, when we're just deciding whether we're gonna embark on a year-long software development project, we have some sense of, I have a sense of how much it's gonna cost. I have a sense of how much I can charge. I look at my target market. Now, at that, and we make, and that's a feasibility. I haven't made any decision, what kind of computer am I gonna run on, what kind of language, but I've decided, does it even make sense? And that's, I think, the part that some of us feel is missing is the feasibility study. Give us the feasibility study, show us the numbers, and then the design, where you put the tanks and all that.
All
Well,
that
we-
information
we-
is currently
we have that.
available.
Yeah, that's our conception.
Been there for over a year.
Feasibility study.
Well, then I think that what you're doing tonight and the fact that that exists, it needs to get out more proactively to
If I
folks.
can just comment, Alan, you make a good point. But with the school is a single client with a single property owner. Only the town of Littleton owned that land. In the common district and in the industrial zone, there are 100 property owners. They actually own each one of those properties, and they control those, and a few of them are fairly sophisticated owners. The town can't unilaterally make decisions for them. It has to go out and, through its consulting engineering firm, do contract negotiations on, this is how much your betterment fee is. And the range right now, as we understand it, is between $5,000 on the short end for a 300-gallon unit sent to the plant to $13,000 betterment on the high end for a 300-gallon unit. And on the low end, with public financing and a couple of things coming together, $37 a month to pay for that 300-gallon unit operations, to as high as, with private financing only, $172. Well, in that range, the engineering firm will establish what the actual cost of the system is, and based on that, negotiate contracts with the 100 property owners, and that will determine whether this is feasible.
But I'm just curious, because you just said that will determine if this is feasible, but a minute ago, in answer to my previous question, you said you have the answer to whether it's feasible and you've had it for a year. So I've heard two.
Well, I suppose maybe the way to say it,
I've
Brian,
heard two
is-
different things in 2 minutes.
No, I'd say the way to say this is, we've had conversations with all those folks, right? This is very possible. And the method of approach pretty dramatically reduces capital risk to the town. But to determine whether this can actually be done on the backs of those 100 property owners, the town has to negotiate actual contracts with them on the basis of the actual cost of the system. And the actual cost of the system will depend on contracts signed with the Point and IBM, on the siting, of the 30,000 gallons or so of new facility that this sewer will need to serve all of the existing town businesses, plus give them some modest expansion room.
It's kind of like going from conceptual feasibility, we have a concept that is feasible, to dipping our feet into the water to see if in real life, does the concept play out? And you have to kind of dip a little bit in and either take your foot out or dive in. So it's different, I know what you're saying and I appreciate that a lot, but I think that because this is a different and kind of unique thing, it's going from concept to, you have to then test the waters a little bit.
So, I mean, in summer, we were all summarizing each other, but,
If I could.
no, let me just say this, because in fairness, we do have some other folks on the agenda too, but you got in your conversations tell you, here, it works. But we can't guarantee that because we could vote it through and then you go out and actually negotiate with those people and half the deals could fall through and then it doesn't work.
Exactly.
So, say it that way, it's just my.
There's a big difference between a conversation and a contract. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And I heard it 3 times tonight, so.
Conversation's a nice thing, and we all get around with beers, and everybody guarantees everything. But when you got to sign on the dotted line, that's a different thing.
See, if I could
Yes.
describe it a little bit, a little differently. When we started this, we were at the 30,000 foot level. And now we're probably at the 15,000 foot level. Because when we come out of the feasibility study, there were a lot of concepts that we came up with that all could work, or some could work, all could work in conjunction with each other. They may not work in conjunction with each other. It may be that only one of them will work by itself. We have these concepts all rolled into that one study, but we don't know all the facts yet, because
Okay.
we're still at the 15,000 foot level.
Then,
It's the next step that takes us down to the 1,000 foot level. That's where we find which model works, in which financial situation, in which we know, the facts that we know are that we have soil conditions that can work. We have a very limited district that we want to work within. We have a certain number of clients. We know that we've looked at many models for sewer, and we know that probably the best one for Littleton is this modular system. Then beyond that, we have things like waste to energy, we have solar, so there's all those other concepts.
those levels of details, I think, are things we all want to hear, and probably other boards do, and I'm going to give you a yes to your earlier request to come in at a future meeting, which I think we will be happy to do. Maybe we'll take some time to develop some of our questions and get them to you before you come in. And I just say this is personal. Long before I was on the finance committee, and at an earlier age, I bought into the concept that you guys are now dealing with on a completely different predicate than economic development, although I became excited personally that had real potential. But once upon a time, when the town first started entertaining the concept of doing the sewer, it was on the advocacy of Salvastanos as the head of the water department, and Bob, you were then head of the Board of Health, making the pitch that from a hydrology standpoint, we were sucking water out of one part of town and dumping it into septic systems on the other part of town, and it's not going backwards. And I would just encourage you on a personal level, not lose sight of why it was even important in the first place.
There are a lot of very important environmental benefits with this
Okay.
system.
Tom?
I have Tom Coughlin Road. I have 2 issues, if you will. One is the risk to the town, and the other is $500,000. You folks have been working on this for, as Megan said, close to 3 years, and you spent approximately $185,000. Why haven't you solicited the folks in the downtown area and get a definite yes or no that they're going to go with it? I think a lot of those folks down there, they're small mom and pop shops, and they can't afford the betterments. They can't afford, there's a lot of risk, and I have trouble with that. And I think after 3 years and $185,000, we should be talking about some real numbers. $500,000, $500,000, that's a lot of money.
But is it 500,000 or is it
Let's,
250 to figure out
the
what it's
actual
feasible?
number is 558,000. And,
Which is phased.
which is
Right.
290 up first half and 270 second half. You'll have 30% design, 25 or 30% design of the system and actual siting based on contracts. CRWA was not, first of all, the town didn't pay us. We were paid by Bar Foundation from downtown, and we offered our services to both the selectmen and the committee at no charge.
But didn't you have $50,000 from the retirement fund?
No, that went to the committee, that did not come to us.
That's the money, we haven't spent all that yet. We've spent almost all of it, but not all of it yet.
That was spent for things like digging holes and
Test pits.
test pits.
We have that, I can get that to you, it's all public. We have that.
And nor did we have the authority as a, in effect, volunteer consultant to the town to actually negotiate deals. What we were paid to do and did over the space of about 1 year with 2 consultants, one we hired out of New Jersey, Natural Systems Utilities, which is, for my money, the best small system designer in the country. They have 5 of these systems operating inside skyscrapers in Battery Park. Anyway, we did have conversations with those folks. And when we published the strategy, which came out in January of 2012, the idea was to follow on with a full-blown preliminary design and move to contract. Well, for whatever reason, between then and now, the committees needed that extra time. Sorry.
We're just kind of far afield from our charge and our allotted time. Obviously, you can continue that dialogue, Tom, with those folks, and we'll have you back in again, too, and I'm sure the selectmen will be entertaining the subject at length as well. But unless anyone else has anything specific and timely, Henry, sure, we'll give you a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be quite brief. I'm concerned also about the risk to the town, and the Vega system sound really good. And if it's so good, that I'd like to see some private company invest in it. I'd like to see somebody like Sam Parks say, not them specifically, but a developer who says, I've got a good financial model, and I will apply the smart sewer technology, and I will do it in Littleton, and I will take all the risk. I mean, I look at Westford, and you know, they don't have any municipal sewer there. And they have money, they may get revenue from business in the town, that the sewer system is out working. So to me, since it takes a lot of people to pay for sewer, you know, I can't have a wastewater treatment plant at my place, there's just two of us. So you need thousands of people to pay for smart sewer, and that means you need density. And then you get the unit cost down to where it's affordable. Is Littleton in that arena? And that's one of my questions.
All good questions. If there's anything you need to add?
Well, the only thing I'd say about a private utility is that it's not allowed in the state of Massachusetts for wastewater.
Okay, all right. Terrific. Thank you all on that
Thank you
subject.
so much, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you guys for paying.
No, stick around. It's more fun, you know?
This is enough fun. Not fun for us.
I've been doing
this since 7:30, I'm out of here.
Can someone find Peter Yap? I know he was going to be here on behalf of the Board of Health, if you could do us a favor. I know they're probably meeting somewhere here.
He said they're meeting upstairs, and he's not sure he's gonna be able to make it.
If you could, and then in the interim, I'm going to let Jerry Young here from the Light and Water Department, who's been very patient, and we'll appreciate you being with us. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but I think they do know that. Jerry, what is your title? You're the comptroller?
No, just a business manager.
Just
Same thing, same thing.
Okay. With the Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. Savas, who loves to visit us, is out of town this week, requested that he come at another night, but we need to get to the printers, so Jerry's very capable hands to handle the...
He's on his expedition.
Where is he actually?
I understand he rented a catamaran.
Oh,
Him and
okay.
a few of his friends in there sailing around the Caribbean. So
Well, you know, we're really not entitled to that information, but I asked anyway, so
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll tell you all about it when he gets back.
Yes. Okay, all right, then, somebody help me. Which article is, since the numbers have changed, I'm a little off game here.
5.
5.
Article 5.
All right. And is that the only issue here? That's the Water Commissioner's Water Enterprise Fund operating budget. You want to walk us through it briefly, Jerry, and just point out highlights?
Did you give them the,
I forwarded along your email. I don't have it printed out in front of me, though.
okay, all right. Savis had probably sent you a hard copy of his, just the format that he used, and he had the 13-14 budget listed twice in there.
Yep.
12.
But that was corrected by your follow-up.
So I followed it up with the correct one. Essentially, the most important, it's pretty much the same as it was last year. A couple of small adjustments with payroll went down a little bit, or it stayed the same, and overtime went up a little bit. And a couple other things went down. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. Most importantly is the debt payment. I think it's $377,000, $377,775, and I don't think we have to worry about the additional debt he had listed there anymore. So the budget's pretty much the same. What it works out to be, let's see, $2 million, roughly.
And I know
with a surplus of $300,000.
Right, budgeted surplus, yeah. There was some discussion, I know, last fall, last spring, too, in last year's budget cycle about a more formal commitment to capital, some capital needs of the water department. Is that reflected here, replacement?
Yeah, it is. He goes through, you mean, they've done an awful lot of work on the treatment plant.
Yeah.
They've replaced all their filters, and they're still working on some of their pumps now. And then they're gonna move on to what they call well number 2, and build a treatment plant on that well. So that's all reflected in the budget.
Right. And then within the past year, you folks did, the commissioners voted an increase, a modest increase, wasn't there on the?
For rates?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it was like 10%, which of 3 cents is, a fraction of a penny.
Right. Okay.
And it should all be covered, for the most part, it should all be covered by rates, and I think he has a couple of new connections coming up in the summer.
Okay. Keith, did you report on that?
Yeah, I just, I had done the calculation, and it's an 11.47% increase between last year and this year. And as far as I can see, most of that increase comes in the budgeted reserve, which is sort of an unspecified purpose, and I didn't know if the intent of that was to be putting money aside to build up,
projects,
for future capital projects.
I remember discussion about line
Yeah,
replacement, all the
It's an
basic
important
stuff.
thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if so, that's an important thing to do, because that can help you, spread out the impact of future rate increases, but it's 11% increase compared to what was
In revenue
the budget
or-
was.
Yes. Or the budget
Expenditure, the budget. You compare the number that was in last year's town meeting warrant. This number is $266,000 more. It's 11-point-something% increase. And doing a side-by-side comparison, it looks like that's the budgeted reserve, which is the main increase, which is an area that needed to be addressed if the intent is to be putting money aside for.
I have a
capital.
budget here of $1,546,000, and last year's budget was $1,553,000. I don't think that's 11%, unless you're looking at something different than.
No, I'm looking at the town meeting warrant. I'm looking at the budget that is brought by the Board of Water Commissioners to town meeting, and what town meeting votes to do.
Oh, the article itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at
That's
that,
what the
you look at that
Okay.
number, and you compare it to the.
Yeah,
last
the
year's
majority
base.
of it is in the budgeted surplus,
Yeah.
$303,000.
Right.
So is there a policy as to what the quote budgeted surplus is put against?
No.
And why?
So why do you need 300,000?
I don't understand why a $2 million business wouldn't have a policy.
Well, there's no formal policy. The policy is, right now, most of the work being done is done on the treatment plants. We're building a new treatment plant on well number 2, and we've just finished refurbishing the treatment plant on Spec Pond.
So that rebuilding would come out of that undesignated?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah,
We're bonding, they're doing their well number 2.
Yeah.
We just did a short-term borrowing that's for the construction piece of it. We're bonding that next year. The estimated cost is a $200,000 increase in the debt service payment. And it's, he's building up a reserve now in
Against that.
anticipation of that coming in.
Correct.
He has some debt rolling off the year after that to make up for some of that, but there's a
Okay.
Right.
FY15 hit right there for the debt service until
Okay,
something else rolls off.
so there really is no long-term kitty being built to support any major capital program that comes out?
I don't know. All I know is, there's a $200,000
Yeah, it goes
increase
from
in
what,
debt service.
377 to
570.
something.
Okay.
Yeah, if this is just a one-time line item that's not accruing, as has been said in the reserve fund, then, then maybe that needs to be fleshed out, because I know there was discussion and concern last year that there was not enough being put aside to replace just something as simple as, water mains and the like, and that was part of the rationale behind the rate increase. So if that shows up here as $300,000, and it seems like that's what it's for, that's okay, but it probably ought to be spelled out pretty specifically somewhere.
Right, but it sounds like it's
The rate
already
increase-
earmarked
The rate increase has been earmarked for the debt service.
for the debt service payment on the
And from
upgrades
what
to the treatment
Savas
system.
said in our meeting with S&P, is they may do another rate increase the year after, in case they need to build up reserves a little bit further, but they're gonna try not to, from what he said.
Okay, well,
I
why
think
don't we
he-
get
he
Savas
was Savas.
later and
No, the heat on that one.
Right.
That there's something, needs to start do something about that.
Well, I'm sure you're probably relieved, Jerry, that it'll be Savas and not you who stands at the town meeting in case any of those
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Well, Savas keeps most of the water department close to the belt.
Right.
That's his little, that's his baby.
We've
Right,
noticed.
but.
He likes to do whatever he can there.
Right, but we also, as sad as it makes all of us think about it, Savos is a short timer at this point. He's.
Well, we all may be short timers.
I know, but he's announced.
Some more than others.
But he's announced.
Yeah.
So we have to get used
He
to
has an
it.
appointment.
Yeah, but Bernie Nystrom, God rest his soul, used that stratagem for about 20 years over in Showbitech, but I'm retiring in a couple of years.
All right.
Kept the heat off him. Okay, any other questions for the Light and Water Department? That's the only article that
Question on the in lieu
affects
of
you.
tax payment or anything?
What's that?
Any question on the in lieu of tax payment?
I think we're all set with that. Bonnie kind of prepped us on that, the increase in the change in the formula a few weeks ago, unless anybody wants to, we appreciate it, thank you.
It was very helpful.
Yes. Keep up the good work. Okay, great.
A little more familiar with that.
Well, if there's something you want to tell us about it, that's...
It's always the way it is. The thing you cram for on the test isn't on the test.
Yeah, you can be real helpful by telling us what we forgot to ask for that we could have asked for.
Well, I don't think there's much.
Okay.
I don't think there's much that can be done.
Okay.
That's kind of a big ball that our auditor keeps tossing around every year. But I think we've got it all straightened out, and it's the way he appreciates it being done anyhow.
We only want the most that we can legally get from you, not anything beyond that.
Correct.
Okay.
Excellent.
And ultimately, it's not surprising to see the budget go up because we're approving multi-million-dollar expenditures which you have to pay for. And those get paid for in the operating budget, so.
Right, the rates,
you know,
yeah.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you for coming in.
thanks.
Okay, waiting for the Board of Health, but we do have Mark Prairie here, and Mark, you're a direct report, I think, to Keith, so whoever wants to take the lead. This is the first time we've actually entertained the Littleton Community Television in our budget process. Is there a warrant article I should be referencing here?
Just the budget, just the.
Just in Article 4, correct, okay. And I guess
Article
we didn't really, I guess we forgot to invite you guys during our December 1st process, or it was assumed in there somewhere, but it's a good chance for the committee to, in the town, to, revisit what the financial relationship is between, in the structure of Littleton Community Television and the town, now that we own you, right?
We own you.
They're fully funded.
You're talking to me?
I do that, I just gotta stop abruptly and hope somebody's paying
Okay, all
attention.
right, I was paying attention.
Thank you.
They're a fully funded subsidiary of the town.
I have one, thank
Oh,
you.
yes. Do you want to leave? Might as well, I have one more copy.
Just waiting to see when he sits down if it scrolls in front of him who he is.
I got the.
Oh, by the way, before you get started,
Kirby, get it right.
I don't know how many people had a chance to go to the open house or visit the new studios yet, but they were terrific. I mean, I'm not sure what I was expecting when I walked in. I hadn't been in there in a while, and it was just stunning what a great facility we have, and in detail, Mark, you can tell how much time and heart you put into every last detail of making that space as much of a benefit to the town as it can be. So congratulations, and I guess it's okay for me to encourage folks to come down and take a look at it?
Absolutely.
All right.
And it was a team effort. It wasn't just me. It was a collaboration between Bonnie and Keith and the Cable Advisory Committee, so it's really a team effort. But we're pleased, and we're having workshops in May if anyone's interested signing up.
We'll have a collage of greatest hits of FinCom meetings. And planning board and stuff like that.
Yeah. We're holding up till sweet.
The whole reel of bloopers.
Yeah,
is that-
it'll, boards con
And
wide.
last night was #1 on the hit parade, right?
No comment. All right, so basically, you have the budget worksheets that most of these numbers come from. You can see the salary and wages are for 1.5 full-time employees. And it's 83,400. The studio expenses are 20,250, for a total of 103,650. And then there's indirect costs, which are highlighted down below. We pay a percentage of the town administrative services and a percentage for building maintenance and operations. And then the total cost of employee retirement and the total cost of medical and life insurance and Medicare.
That all comes directly out of it's a chargeback from the cable account.
Okay, so the financial mechanism is the revenue comes in to the town and then appropriated out?
And it's held for reserve just for this purpose, that we can only spend it on the local cable programming.
But there's no revolving account, it's a general
No.
fund
It's held in
appropriation.
reserve, and you
Right.
actually have to appropriate the money. for the
Special
use.
revenue account.
Special revenue account.
But because it's a separate organization, however, you got to set up here, things like the life insurance and medical insurance and so on actually gets appropriated back, where it doesn't, we don't do that to the other town departments.
No.
No,
But
if there
we're
are
separately
if there are
funded.
funding sources, I think Park and Rec programs is another example
Okay.
where it's fee-based, if it's a non-general revenue source that's paying for it, that we can charge for the indirect costs as well as the direct costs.
Okay, I see more of a P&L than for your organization.
Right.
Okay.
The equipment, capital equipment, so where is that accounted for here? Am I not
So
seeing it?
look, it's in the revenue portion of of Bonnie's revenue projections, and budget projections he puts out,
Okay.
and they're highlighted on there. And it was last year, it's under 2013. There's nothing on 2014 at the moment.
Yeah, we actually had capital project appropriations last year for the current year, fiscal 2013, where we had studio funds and equipment funds, and you had, hundreds of thousands of dollars that we appropriated from the balance that we had accumulated over a number of years. That, I forget what, it was 450,000, I forget what the balance was, but that we had appropriated those accumulated funds to be able to do the renovations and upgrade to the studio and to buy new equipment.
Right.
So, but we only do that once. To that degree, sure, there'll be replacement of equipment as it wears down, or if there are other, you know.
Other facilities.
I would vote in favor of a new set of microphones for this room, or other,
Yeah, like our
or go to
meeting.
high def.
There was no sound on our meeting, not to interrupt Keith. Really? There was no sound on our meeting, right?
That's by design.
The cone of silence.
Descended down over you. But that microphone and that chair right there works really good.
Yeah, it's, we plan to look at some of the needs, you know, after we got the big thing out of the way, which was, it was $300,000 worth of both studio renovations and equipment. And, you know, we're going to assess things like the microphones, you know, and see where we can do improvements. We're in the final stages, hopefully this Thursday. The interconnect between the police station and our studio will be complete, so we'll be able to go live from that.
You have a cell cam?
No.
No, we have a really super setup down there.
Yeah, we didn't think of the cell cam, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, once you go live at the police station, that will be, I think, a great venue for some joint meetings anyway.
Right. Well, for instance, the December 1st budget hearing that we had there.
That worked out really great, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is what our budget is. okay?
Yeah.
Now, if we talk about the special revenue account, the cable account, it's a restricted account in that the funds that go into that are restricted to be used only for cable operations. They can't be used for anything else. The account is funded yearly by Comcast and Verizon. We have contracts with both those folks. Currently, they pay us a percentage of their gross revenues.
Does the law dictate that, or do the individual contracts?
I'm sorry?
Does the law dictate what they pay, or
No.
is it contract? It's all
The
contract.
town negotiates the
The law
contract.
does dictate that the funds we collect have to be reserved for.
But the percentage that they pay us is negotiated, and we did a very good negotiations with them. So we're getting 5% of their gross revenue of operations in Littleton. So it's restricted to Littleton. For example, we're looking at a budget of about $125,000.
Yeah.
But our calendar year 2012, and they pay us quarterly on a calendar year basis, that sum was $174,000. So we can run the budget, pay all our indirect costs, and still put some money back for,
Capital
like the
outlay, yeah.
system in here is, what, almost 10 years old.
More than that, yeah.
So we need to look towards that at some point.
How long term are those contracts? Are they 20-year
The contracts are 10-year contracts,
10-year
both of them. The Verizon contract, we're in, what, 4th year now? And we're going into the 2nd year of the new contract with Comcast.
Has there been any change in the market on those? You know, what towns are getting that are negotiating new contracts, pretty much the same?
We're the top of the market, and we always have been. When we negotiated with Comcast, the first contract with them, they ran our studio, but they still had to pay us, at that time, was 3% of their revenues, which ran the studio, but it was just, didn't give you any money to work with after that. But we negotiated with them and got them to agree to pay the salary of their own employee, which we should have been paying. They agreed to pay it, which allowed us to stuff money away so that we could do this when we took the studio over. So, now we've got a good deal with them. And being a town department is terrific, because we have more control over the funds, the expenditures. The studio is more responsive to not only the town's needs, but the citizens' needs. If we had opted to go with a nonprofit, 501(c), there would be some town citizens running a little fiefdom off here someplace.
And that does happen.
And it does, and they can run through the money, they can, you know, expense it for junkets and not buy new equipment, not buy this, not buy that. We're a town department, things start looking shoddy, the man in the corner is calling the director saying, what's going on down there? So, we wanted to go as a town department, and the selectmen were nice enough to say, that's a good idea.
So I guess my car is out, right, the car?
Well, you're gonna save up for a couple of years anyway.
Cable car?
Cable.
Cue sound effect.
I think there ought to be a reality TV show based out of the police department, you know, show it live.
So, but in any event, we spent about $300,000 to renovate the studio and to buy all new HD equipment, everything that went in there.
And on the record, by the way, the we that you're referring to, you're on the Cable Advisory Committee in
Right.
addition to serving on the Finance Committee.
And after that expenditure, our cable account balance presently is $464,000 something, so. We'll be funded for the foreseeable future.
Great.
So with all these new capabilities, I mean, are there new projects that you want to take on? I mean, I just think, God knows, we're entering the election cycle. You know, just are there I don't know, new opportunities for even more use of the system?
Well, as Alan mentioned, being a town department has kind of enabled us to be plugged into the what's happening a lot more closely than perhaps before. So we will be doing a show with the town administrator and the town moderator, going through the warrant articles again to inform people. This week I'll be contacting all the candidates in contested races to offer them their time, 5 minutes or so, to come on and make their pitch for why we should vote for them. And we'll be covering candidates night on the 24th, I believe. We'll also be videotaping town meeting for the first time this year, which we've never done before. It won't be live, but it will be videotaped and then put on our on-demand site so people can, at any time throughout the year, check it out.
And the opportunity is greater now with the facilities for folks who come in and take the time to get the training, to do other independent programming too.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to encourage a lot of that.
Yeah, we even add, that's why one of the reasons why we added an extra staff person to stretch out the hours to, just be more available for people who want to come in.
To come in after hours, and get trained and come in and work on a show in the evening after they get off work, so.
That's excellent.
I mean, just for an example, we allowed, this weekend, Kirby, who's the other person, he covered the track opening, which was a Saturday. Normally, if you work a Saturday, you have to take a day off during the week or something, and we didn't have to do that this time. The studio could stay open all week long and still work the weekend.
That's good.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Beyond the fact that the videos are now, the meetings are now available on demand, has just been a great boom to, I think, getting our money's worth out of the product that we're offering. And it's, first step, and we're going to be making a lot more progress, I think.
Actually, one more question, just because I have DirecTV, I don't have cable. I mean, we had joked, and I don't know if the proper term is we talked or joked about putting some of our things on YouTube.
That was not a joke, that was for real, we just haven't done it, but the capability, I mean, if we had tapes, like, say for users that, Brian doesn't have the Verizon or Comcast, we can take the same meetings and make them, the data available online.
You can go online.
You can do it now, right?
Yeah, just go to the town's
Town
website,
website.
go to the town's website online, and you can.
Stand by. Yeah.
If you look on the what's happening news, you'll see that Keith has put a little blurb, a sentence there about LCTV on
Yeah, the very
demand.
first thing, LCTV on demand.
given a lot of the new function, this isn't specific to you, but with the new functionalities that the website's starting to have, I think a redesign of the landing page, Keith, this is more to you,
Yes.
is hopefully somebody's considering it, because finding things is still difficult.
Yeah,
So
we're
that's a good
looking,
reaction.
yeah, we're looking at a redesign of the website to make it a little more user-friendly. The template we've had up now, we've had for, I
Yeah.
don't know, 4 or 5 years. And there are some alternatives that we can be doing that I hope will make it easier to find. Just a search engine, just
Right.
that.
Finding stuff is the toughest part.
So you can
I put a
send that
makeshift
website now to
the
your
search
aunts and
engine that
uncles
we-
and they can
that
watch
comes-
you in action.
The search engine that comes with the website is so bad, I put up another one. If you go to the left-hand column, it says search this site.
Okay.
If you do that, then it sends you to Google, which is frankly a better way to search for internally for our site, so.
I had no idea we had this capability.
Isn't that great?
This is incredible. I'm watching this meeting right now, right here. It's like Spaceballs, you know?
I'm sure this makes for thrilling television out there.
Check it.
Yeah,
Here's the camera. Check it out.
here's last night's selectmen's.
I missed that, I was at the ball game, but.
We don't
I
stream
heard it was
live.
fun.
We don't stream live, so the meeting you're watching.
I know,
is-
I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
You're watching last week's meeting, yeah?
But just to give you an example, I did put last night's selectmen meeting up. I generally do them the next day. Take some time to
You've
process
already
the
had
files.
1,000 hits on it.
Within 5 minutes, I went back just to check the queue log and to, see who had been checking it out. And yeah, I had 5 views within 5 minutes. So people, I don't know, were glued to the LCTV on demand.
How come there's like a 4 or 5 minute delay in the beginning before it starts?
4 or 5 minute delay.
Like our meeting, well, when I noticed.
I'll tell you why.
Is that something?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. We have a schedule that says it starts at 7.
Oh, so.
And we
when
wander
on,
in at 5 minutes after 7 and 6 minutes after.
Yeah, I just.
And I hit the switch and we don't get started till 10 after, that's why.
Well, it's still a human element.
It's a good point, though, Chris. We do have the capability of setting it in and out. We can trim the video.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, in just the speed to want to get it up there.
Right, you don't have a chance to edit it.
Yeah, but for instance, the selectmen meeting, I trimmed the beginning and the end last night, so, because people don't want to see the title for, like you said, 2 or 3 minutes, and it's like, where's the
Yeah.
meeting?
But
Yeah.
But you can always scroll
fast
through.
forward.
That's what I do, I just
Forward, so.
fast forward it up and it's
Yeah.
obviously.
But I agree, I'd like to see all of them trimmed.
The other things we're trying to do is, I don't know if you care or not, this has nothing to do with finances, but, we've been putting the agenda items on the screen, so let's say you wanted to scan through quickly, you could see when that pops up, and then, okay, now you're at your agenda.
That's amazing, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to tell us, or any other questions from the board?
Already
No,
let the
thank
car
you.
thing slip, so watch what you say now.
Thank you for having
Thank
me
you
in.
for hanging around, and coming to see us.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Good night.
Keep up the good work.
Now,
Thank you.
Keith, I'm going to lean on you to walk us through, because I don't have a printed copy. I'll spare you my computer problem.
Yeah.
You did send out an update based on the selectmen's actions last night, but
Yes.
we can take these articles in order, and a lot of them, I think the board had already kind of vetted, but we have to formally vote all.
Yeah, maybe just to start with the special town meeting.
Sure, yeah.
If that's okay, we have,
If you, unless the board objects, I'll just ask Keith to present each of the articles. We can decide whether we want to take a vote or whether we need any more information, and obviously some of them we don't have any opinion on, but if you want to lead on it.
sure, yeah, special town meeting, Article 1, bills of prior years, we don't have any yet, so there's no action you should take. If we have any between now and town meeting, we'll bring them to you, you can vote then. Article 2 in the special, the fiscal 2013 line item transfers, Bonnie has prepared a list totaling $68,657,000, including moving money. It's all moving money out of the unemployment line in the employee benefits budget, and going, going towards legal expenses, $35,000. Appeals Board expenses 36. That is actually offset by fees that we have come in, but we have to appropriate the money.
I think we went through that article, so I think, does the board have any remaining questions on that? You want to vote if someone want to make a motion then on a recommendation?
I'll move that we accept Article 2, Keith?
Article 2.
Article 2 as stated.
Okay.
Second.
It's not accept, it's recommend.
Recommended.
Yes, support, yeah. Okay, just
No, that's fine.
vote to support Article.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so then the motion's been made and seconded that the Finance Committee vote to recommend approval on Article 2 of the special town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? You guys have it? Okay.
Article 3 is the $40,000 Minuteman vocational tech
Yeah,
bill.
I think we're all familiar with that issue, right? We need to change the language. And,
Move to recommend Article 3, special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded then that the Finance Committee vote to recommend Article 3 of the special town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Guys have it? All right.
Article 4 is collective bargaining agreements. We don't have any yet. We're in mediation with the highway union. If we reach an agreement with them, we will ask for funding under this article.
And if you don't, you'd withdraw the
And if we
article?
don't, then we'll take no action on it.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
withdraw. Article 5 is the ambulance, which is part of the capital projects, but we wanted to spend it, we wanted to make the purchase before July 1st.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
so we pulled this one out for the special town
Okay,
meeting.
I think we've had that fully explained. The
Move to recommend.
second, moved and seconded, that Brian moved, Fred seconded, motion's been made and seconded to Finance Committee recommend Article 5 of the special town meeting warrant.
All those in
Oh,
favor? Anybody?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Feel free to nudge me every now and then.
You want a Coke?
No, that's fine.
That was a classic pregnant pause there.
I don't know where my head was, but it wasn't in here.
Article 6 establishes the capital stabilization fund. Article 7 funds the capital stabilization fund, and I know you know that the dollar amount here is the difference between the total that was available for capital spending and
Bless you.
subtracting out the items you recommended, and that would leave the ability to appropriate $196,000 and change at a future town meeting.
And we're going to try to get some action through our subcommittee. We have the, not unsurprising, situation where everybody's schedules don't work. The only, I give Chris kudos, he's the one who's available at any time, at any place, but there's some draft language floating around, isn't there? Bonnie indicated there might be on putting a policy in place for use
I know
of this.
she's working on it.
She's working on it. Is she out of town still?
She'll be back on Thursday.
Back
So
on
it takes
Thursday.
two of us to replace one of them.
Right, okay. Well, Fred made the suggestion, I think the committee properly thought that if we're going to ask folks to establish this committee, we ought to have the policy in place, so we're going to try to get that done in the next couple of weeks, so, all right, then.
Move we recommend Article 6, the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to recommend, Finance Committee recommend Article 6, special town meeting warrant. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Article 7?
That's the other piece of that. That's to make the appropriation.
Yeah, move to the committee recommend Article 7, the special town meeting warrant.
Motion.
Who seconded that? We get-
Whoever you like. Hello, Peter.
We had a very contentious hearing, and I couldn't leave, so what'd you do, just...
Nothing, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we haven't got to your article yet, so when we get to it, we'll relax, we'll be with you in a moment. How's that? All right, we were in the middle of a vote there, Article 7, motion's made and seconded. Finance Committee recommend Article 7 on the special town meeting warrant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it, okay?
Article 8, and the special is the last one you need to vote on. That's expanding the scope of the 2008 article to allow the schools to spend,
Yeah.
it's a balance of about $5,000 for security upgrades.
PJ was in to make a pitch on that, so I think we're all familiar with that article. Someone want to make a motion?
Move to recommend.
Okay.
One second.
Motion's made and seconded to Finance Committee to recommend Article 8 of the special town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Article 9, that's being withdrawn anyways, is it?
It's withdrawn.
It's
Yep.
withdrawn, okay. So now we're on to the annual? Okay.
First article in the annual you typically adopt a recommendation on is Article 3, or the borrowing authorization.
Article 1 and 2 being the town offices and the annual reports, right? And the 3, the borrowing authorization, that's a standard article, right?
Yep.
But we generally recommend it, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Someone want to make the...
Move to recommend Article 3, the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, though. The Finance Committee recommend Article 3 of the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Make the same motion on Article 4.
Article 4 for the viewing audience being the operating budget, and we are pretty familiar with that. Motion has been made then. Is there a second?
Second, sure.
Okay, motion's made and seconded then. The Finance Committee recommend Article 4, the fiscal 14 operating budget. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
The Article 5 is the Water Enterprise Fund.
Okay, which is the presentation Jerry made earlier. Did folks content with what we heard? Do you want to hold it? We didn't really have a chance to discuss. Well, we discussed while Jerry was here. But,
Let's be different and recommend approval this time. Instead of 6:30 on town meeting night.
is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay, and is it followed by a second somewhere?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's made and seconded then. Did the Finance Committee recommend Article 5 of the annual town meeting warrant, the Water Enterprise Fund operating budget? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay. I think it's, now that we've recommended, I still think it's further dialogue with the commissioners of Savas on the disposition of those designated funds is in order. Article 6.
That's $4,300 for the stabilization fund to bring it up to 5% of the operating budget for the policy.
All policy, that's just crazy talk. Let's approve it.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Well, yes,
Second.
Yes. Motion's made and seconded to Finance Committee recommend Article 6 stabilization fund. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Who seconded that? Was it Fred again? Al?
Okay. I'll let you take over again, because I think the order of what you've got and I got may differ at some point,
Okay,
so.
sure. Yeah, and Article, the next one is Article 7, the capital article, that you've approved all the projects
Right.
already, but this is the article.
Okay, and I think we've, the list reflects what we commonly agreed on. All right, so a motion?
Make a motion to recommend Article 7.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Finance Committee recommend Article 7 of the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay.
Article 8, the sewer borrowing article is being pulled, so no action on that. The next one is Article 9, the Kimball Trust Funds for the schools. That's $14,200.
Okay. Someone remind me on history here. Do we generally recommend on that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept Article 9.
Second. It's Article, is it, it's Article 8?
nine. No, it's nine.
Nine. Okay, here's where the difference is.
Add one. Yeah,
Right.
take yours and add one.
Okay, 9. The motion's made and seconded then that the Finance Committee recommend Article 9 on the Kimball Trust Funds. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Who seconded that?
So
Betsy
is
did it.
there going to be an
Sure.
8? Is there going to be an Article 8, or do we?
We just plucked that one out.
Is there,
And
Is it just gonna go from 7 to 9, or is it gonna be?
No, it's in, the warrant is printed, has already been printed.
Oh, okay, so it's
So
just
we
being,
will, essentially,
it's
we're
just
saying we're
being
gonna
pulled.
pull,
That's
skip
fine.
over, not act on
That's
those
fine.
three, yeah.
That's
There'll be-
fine, okay.
There will be no loss of the sequence of numbering.
No, I just, just,
So next one is Article 10, the long list of revolving funds, the 14 revolving funds we have.
Which annual approval is
Annual
required by law,
approval is
right?
Required,
yeah.
and you vote every year.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded then, that the Finance Committee recommend Article 10 of the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
The next article is 11, personnel bylaw amendments, which of substance, there's an amendment to Schedule C for temporary and seasonal park and rec positions, and all the dollar numbers are lower based on the study that, than what we do currently. And I think it's been your practice to adopt a recommendation.
Yep, and we did have a presentation on this.
Yep.
All right, a motion from,
Motion to recommend Article 11 of the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
motion's made and seconded then to recommend Article 11 of the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, the ayes have it.
Article 12 is the Community Preservation Fund local appropriation, which is pulled, so no action on that.
Okay.
Article 13 is the Community Preservation FY 2014 budget, which Jeff presented on earlier.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay. Second, motion, Fred second. Okay. Motion made and seconded then to recommend Article 13, Community Preservation Budget. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Let me have a stop at this point. Do we want to take a position on the, before I lose track of it, the ballot question that the home rule petition citizens made? We can do whatever we want, recommend, not recommend.
Is it going to come up at town meeting?
No.
No, it won't come up to town
It
meeting.
No.
won't be discussed at town meeting, so
True, but, it would...
Publish in the
it
book
would
as
be
they
published.
recommended.
Right. I mean, it's just for the record, and we don't have to act on it, I'm just getting the question on the table. I mean, we're not prohibited from making an opinion on it. All right, we'll leave that alone then. Hearing nothing,
And where it's a ballot question, I'd have to refresh my memory on what we can provide information. Members of boards can take positions on ballot questions.
Can't expend
but I
public
can't
funds to
expend
advocate it.
Public funds to advocate it, so. Next,
okay.
the next article as numbered, we've got Article 14, it's a home rule petition on a land exchange between conservation and recreation. I don't think we would
we don't
take-
normally take a position.
So, Article 15 is the acquisition of the Church Meadow property.
Just before we move on, even though, I mean,
Yeah.
if a member felt strongly they wanted to take a position, make the case, but we're not
Yeah.
prohibited from it, we're not, yes, okay.
The Article 15 acquisition, we're not ready yet, and I know you will take a position once we bring you the deal, but we're still working on it, so no action yet.
But it's not being withdrawn as far as you know?
It's not being withdrawn.
Okay.
No, we are hopeful of having something to.
So we might be requested to take a vote
Yes.
between now and then, but probably it won't make the publication date.
It won't make the publication date, and we'll probably be working right up to town meeting.
It's always something.
Always something, this is probably it.
Since Keith is here, did we want to broach the whole question of the order of the two articles? 'Cause last time-
Refresh me, ask the question, I forget the details.
Yeah, there was, the two motions, one is do we want to do it, the other is funding. And we had questions about whether the order was appropriate.
Right, the article to expend, what was that? Oh, that had to do with the CPC funds, right? Isn't some of this, was it CPC, that one's involved here or not?
trying to go back.
There was a funding piece to it, Keith.
There
Is that a
was.
separate article that involves
Well,
funding?
it's not anymore. I think I know what you're talking about, that there was, that if we were going forward with putting money into the community preservation.
That's what
which
it would
we
have been,
now
right.
have to wait a year and a half to do.
Okay.
Our Plan A had been to put $270,000 in the fund, in that article, and then take it out in this article, use it as a funding source.
And that's
Since
been-
we can't do that, if we need $400,000, it's gonna be a borrowing article.
And that's obviated by the withdrawal of Article 12 then, right?
That issue goes
That issue,
away,
right.
of putting, the wisdom of putting, well, if we could have, I think it would have been very wise for us to put in money into the Community Preservation Fund, because we could have accessed another $70,000 of state match. We now have to wait 1, maybe 2 fiscal years to realize that benefit, and I'm not so sure that isn't the ulterior motive they had
Right.
in mind all along.
But the connection between that and those two articles is no longer there because...
Right, the nexus is gone,
Right.
yeah.
Okay,
So-
never mind.
Thank you for remembering, though.
Article 16 is a routine financial article, compensating balance agreement. I don't know if you adopt the recommendation on it.
Do we have that one for?
We always do.
All right, and that's, and the reason that's 16, we're back on schedule, is because the earlier Article 15, which had been the sewering, was withdrawn.
Pulled, no, the
Right.
board pulled it, put it in an earlier position. They moved it from 15.
I'm just noticing we're back on.
Yeah, you're back on. From now on, you're okay.
Okay.
It's the same.
All right.
So it's Article 16?
Article 16 is our
Article 16,
next
compensating
article.
balance agreement.
Compensating balance agreement. Do we have a,
Move the committee recommend Article 16 of the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
okay, the motion's made and seconded then that the Finance Committee recommend Article 16, compensating balance agreement. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Article 17, FY 2014 personal exemption amounts. This is that we reinstituted the practice in November of having to vote every fiscal year to affirm the personal exemption amounts that grants an additional 20% property tax exemption to qualifying elderly and disabled and veterans. That we voted that back in 2001. We thought a vote once was all you need. DOR says you have to do it every year.
Okay.
So now we're adding this as a routine article every year, and you did recommend the one in November, so I
Yep.
would say you should recommend.
So is this likely to be a consent calendar?
It is a consent, it's on the consent
Okay.
calendar, yes.
In the interim, a motion?
Move to recommend?
Second.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded then that the Finance Committee recommend Article 17, dealing with personal exemption amounts on the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. 18, that's,
Payment in lieu of taxes for solar,
Yep.
that was that your committee participated in the
yep, Betsy was a advocate in that.
subcommittee, and it's 1.5 million over 20 years.
Okay, I think we've had the fulsome discussion on that one. Any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 18.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded that the Finance Committee recommend Article 18 of the annual town meeting warrant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Good, unanimous.
Article 19 adds town-owned properties to the list of...
I think we were intending not to
Yeah, I
make a
think
recommendation
it
on
hadn't
this
been
one.
passed, so we can skip that.
We've
We've got 4 zoning amendments, Article 20, 21, 22, 23.
Okay, anybody see anything there that we want to, I don't think we were going
Speaking of
to...
zoning,
What's that? So,
I still think we can make a lot of money off the medical man.
did you say through 23, Keith? 23 at my list is the Council on Aging. Is there another zoning article here somewhere?
No?
What do I...
Article 20.
23 is a zoning article.
Yeah, Article 20, 21, 22.
Okay, 20 is open space development, yeah.
this is the current.
21 is medical marijuana,
Yes.
okay. 22 is,
Voter petition, extensive recreation, special permit granting authority.
okay, that's the one I'm missing, yeah.
Article 23, voter petition, extensive recreation definition.
Okay, that's the,
Golf course?
no, well, that's that language, yes,
That's the
the,
golf course.
the
Fletcher.
Fletcher property.
So those two articles are the ones I referenced earlier that I do not think that the planning board will have had their hearing on it in time for town meeting to
Right.
vote. So in all likelihood, town meeting will not be able to vote on those two.
Well, I don't think we were, at this point,
You
we
weren't-
were going to be making a recommendation. Right, yes.
So the next article is Article 23, Town Bylaw Amendment, Wetlands Protection.
Yeah,
Don't think you'll be doing
23? I'm sorry.
24.
24.
24. The former 22. Probably other numbers too.
When will I coming up? I have to get Peter's cane out of my car. Not my cane.
We can take you out of order. We'll,
Well, I'll be right back.
we're almost there, we're almost there.
Just go to the car.
We're just going out the parking lot.
I'll be right back.
Gino,
Night.
wow, what a crew, hi, Bill.
Article 25, so no recommendation on 24. Article 25 is another town bylaw amendment. It amends the appointing authority for the Director of Elder and Human Services to coincide with the grand bargain that the Selectmen and Council on Aging have reached after.
As far as you know, everybody's on
after
board?
months of team building, and I have 11 signatures of every member of the COA and every.
Well, we're gonna watch with interest, but I don't think we're gonna take a position on it unless you really want us to.
You want us
No,
to
that's
stay
all
away?
right. No, it's just that someday you'll all be needing the service more than they do now. Article 26, Senior Work Program, does need your vote,
Yes.
so we're increasing it from 50 to 55,000, the amount that we put aside for this
We did discuss
tax
that.
work off.
Move that we recommend Article 26,
Okay,
the
the
work program.
motion's been made and seconded then, that the Finance Committee recommend Article 26 of the annual town meeting warrant, senior work program increase. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Who seconded that?
Brian?
Sure.
Pick somebody.
Yeah, okay, we didn't have.
That's what it sounded like, yeah.
Somebody in TV land's gonna say, he did not.
I did too.
Article 27 is the use of the Chapter 90 funds. We do need a vote. I have the tentative figure, which I'm going to put in the motion.
Is it good news or is it bad news?
Well, it's good, it's up by 50%. We had 367,000 in Chapter 90 funds.
Whose version of the budget is that predicated
Either
on?
one.
The governor's, either one?
Either
Okay.
one.
All right. Yeah.
Either one, and the new number is 573,000.
Great. Yeah.
So either version, that what they have not agreed is how to pay for it.
Right.
But both have agreed with the jump
Right.
to go from 2 million to 3 million statewide for Chapter 90 funding. Our share of that is an increase.
We need it. Roads, I assume? No, that's
Yeah.
a discussion for another day.
No, we program it for the 10-year road improvement project.
Yeah.
That it's, all of the Chapter 90 monies are plugged into that roadway
Good.
construction project.
Okay, then a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Article 27.
Motion's made and seconded that the Finance Committee recommend Article 27, Chapter 90 funds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Article 28 is a drainage easement on Harvard Road that you will not be adopting a recommendation.
Okay.
on that.
Well, we could fool you, but
You could,
not
well, you might
likely.
fool me on the next one. Article 29, sewer easements on Grist Mill Road and Surrey Road. If you give the right answer, you get 250,000 plus 191,000.
Oh, yes, this is the 40B negotiation
Yes,
settlement?
yeah.
Okay.
So, and the issue there is that there's 7 unbuildable lots,
Yeah.
6 of which are in tax title and owned by the town. And when I say unbuildable, that they won't perk, the only way they can be developed is if they are hooked up to the wastewater treatment facility on 15 Gray Road, 40 to 40B.
If I might interject, I mean, I'm familiar with the issue, I think the board is in general, but I don't know that we've had a presentation on it. And while there is a financial end to it, I wasn't anticipating that we were going to be voting on this.
I don't think you would, and if it helps you, the Board of Selectmen voted after debate to have no recommendation on the article.
All right. Well, maybe we can do the same without debate, but unless the board member has an opinion on it, or a different opinion.
It's the will of the selectmen to let the voters decide at town meeting by agreement with the developer, they said, we will bring your request for an easement to the voters and let them decide.
Well, my personal inclination is if we haven't been made a presentation on it, then we shouldn't be making a recommendation, unless we're real PO'd and want to recommend against it, but I don't sense that either.
Yeah, just vote.
No, you've all been very good tonight.
Behave yourself.
Okay.
Is that like behave yourself?
We'll let Article
And
29 pass then, which leaves us,
And which brings us to Peter.
Peter, and that's, well, I had two remaining articles, one of those gone, there was
30
a,
and 31.
oh.
We have the community septic system repair
Right.
loan program,
All right.
that Board of Health has requested for 300. And then we have a bunch of rescinding unused borrowing authorizations in Article 31, which we would appreciate your support on.
Okay, well, why don't I just suggest that, has a problem with 31, right? I assume it's just a boilerplate. Can we take a motion on that one, and then we can hear from...
So moved. Second.
Motion is made and seconded then for the Finance Committee to recommend Article 31, the rescinding of unused borrowing authorizations. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Ayes have it. Okay, Bonnie did explain this to us, this Article 30, but Peter, the Board of Health, you want to tell us a little bit more about the septic loan
What did she
program?
explain to you? Anything good?
She said, I don't know. She said, Peter knows
Peter
all
knows
about
all
it.
about it, so.
I know in form, it looked a lot like the housing rehab program that was in place several years ago.
This was a program that they had twice before. The first one was actually a grant.
Right.
And the second one was similar to this, which is a loan program. And basically what the state's doing is they make available $200,000 for to repair septic systems for people that can't afford them. And generally $100,000 the next year, so it's a $300,000 program. It's 2 years to pay back, 2 years before you start paying back. I shouldn't say 2 years, it's a 20-year program. It's interest-free, and it sounds good, but there's a lot of devils in the detail, and we have some concerns, the selectmen have some concerns too. So basically what's supposed to happen is we go through the usual business of like getting a bond. You have to vote for it at a town meeting, and they don't just give it to you. We have to come up with a program of how we're going to implement it, testing and stuff like this. And some of these things are really a big concern to us. Like say we make Long Lake a target area that we're going to help people out that has systems have failed. And they can come to us and we determine their need, and we can get the loan for them. And they pay the loan back at a certain percentage, whatever.
Would this be managed by Neshoba Board of Health, or?
No, local Board of Health would be the ones that would grant the person the loan. Bonnie's people, I guess, it would be part of the tax bill, that how they pay back, and there'd also be a vehicle.
Betterment process, then, is that right?
Yeah, and there would be something like a lien on the house too, if they weren't able to pay.
You want to jump in with any of the financial details?
Well, I mean, the town would administer the program following the guidelines that are set up through the DEP. We're essentially, we're borrowing the money through them as opposed to like issuing our own bond. Peter alluded to, the Board of Selectmen last night actually has not taken a recommendation on this article yet, because we've asked to meet with the Board of Health later in the month. There were some questions about what the strings are that are attached. For example, do we have to mandate a septic system inspection program town-wide, or in some geographic area as a condition of accepting the current program? And
so we town awaiting some detail from the state.
We gotta check it.
So we'd like to. Those are questions that we've been asked by members of the public. We would like to have the answers before we.
What is it, the Solid Waste Abatement Trust, or who administers this? Is it DEP? DEP does?
Yeah, it's not part of it's separate from the state revolving fund.
Okay.
And it's It's a very, it's been a very popular program, a lot of communities are doing, we had it in Provincetown, we got a loan for a septic system that we had replaced 20 years ago.
I would have thought you just had a pipe.
No, it actually, no, it cost $20,000 and it sits in the sand, so.
It's like cruise ships, just cruise
Yeah,
ships.
the problem is, like I said, that we gotta find out, because the same questions that I think we're going to the Board of Selectmen, are coming to us.
Yeah.
And I was like, they talk about an inspection program. So who's gonna do the inspecting, who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
Where are they gonna inspect? Are we gonna inspect everything in Long Lake, if we make Long Lake a target area?
Right.
And we have to come up with a plan. And they also want to have a database that's approved by DEP, and I don't know if we have time to administer something like that, so there's a few things that we've got to really look at before we jump in.
I would guess, and the committee could shut me down if I'm astray, but all that information, I think, are things that we would also want to see before we took a vote one way or the other on it. So if you get that information and can forward it along, is that all right to the committee that we've not taken a position on it tonight until we?
Yeah, my question would just be though, if we don't do it now at this town meeting, does this program go on for a while? Does it like, we use
That I
it a
don't
little
know.
bit or?
It sounded like it.
It's been around forever, and
But no, I
don't
think what she's asking, if we skipped a year,
Yeah, I mean, if we.
would you still be available?
Yes,
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, based on what I know, that the program has been around for a while, and I'm not aware that they're doing away with it.
Well, it could be something that's sporadically funded and not. I mean, that's a question we can get an answer to.
I don't get the fact that it's been funded for a long time. The way it was presented, it was a new program. That's what the guy that we met with,
Whose article is it?
It's the Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Okay, see, you guys brought it up because.
Yeah,
then they just
obviously,
started-
we want to know too, because we don't want to get stuck with administering something.
Now, the warrant I get from initial Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, but Selectmen put it on as a courtesy, Keith, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
See, it's a thing that sounds good, but like I say, the
Yeah,
devil's in
the
the
selectmen
details.
can be very courteous.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
Well, why don't we just, we look forward, if there's more information forthcoming, forward it to us, and
Well, we're going to meet with the selectmen, what's the
April
22nd?
April 22nd. Yeah, so we will have more information for all of us
Okay.
prior to.
So you would expect to have a recommendation even from the Board of Health before the
Well,
meeting?
we voted on it, and we recommended it, and based on the information that we had at the time, it sounded like a very good plan, but then subsequently,
Right.
we got some of the things that we had to do, the Board of Health have to do, to start, have an actual plan in place, and it's gonna be approved by DEP, and you gotta do this, and you gotta do that, and there's a lot of questions on it. I can't see us going in and randomly testing people's septic systems, and who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
So there's a half a chance this will get pulled because we won't have our
Might
control
do.
back.
We have incomplete information, I'm sure.
Okay, that was really my question, thank you.
I was suggesting.
So we'll either know the details and we'll be in a position to vote, or we won't, it might not be on the warrant anymore, right?
Okay. Sounds good.
So I'm hearing no inclination to move right now. That's the end of the warrant. You got everything you were looking for, I think?
All I need is your report by Friday.
Oh,
morning,
and just to
I'll be
prove,
set.
I
Okay.
mean, here it is. This is a draft, however. My computer, when I left the house, was in hour 4 of going through a virus scan. Nobody wants to hear my crying story tonight, but I've been dealing with that all day long, but...
How old is this computer?
No, it's fairly new, it's just something's happening. But here's my report. Also, it's longer than my matching orders were, because I was told 2.5 pages, and it's, as you can see, 3.5 pages, so I have to edit down a page, but you'll get it tomorrow.
The computer was helping.
Appreciate
Huh?
that.
The computer was trying to help. So are we gonna see the draft?
I will send it out, but he's gonna need it by Friday, but I'll send it out tomorrow. If anyone has any wild objections to it. All I'm doing, or all I'm intending to do, is reflecting what you told me to do last week, you know. But I will send it to you.
Right, I mean,
Open
we
it
should
at
see
your
it
own
before
risk.
it goes.
Well, that's a good point, yeah.
I'll pick up my hard copy at your house.
All right. I also don't have I did see the minutes when they came in from Maryland, I wasn't able to print up a copy of those. Does anyone want to make a motion on the minutes from the last meeting, based on But everybody got them, we just, I don't have it in front of me.
Anybody who can, sure, go ahead.
Or do we want to wait? We can also do that. How's things?
I don't know whether we want to wait.
No, I mean, you.
No, I just, it's still, I'm
You're right,
still
right?
a very unhappy person.
Why are you unhappy?
Thanks, Keith.
Oh, good night,
Keith.
Good night.
With the way the minutes are done.
Too much information there?
It's stream of consciousness.
See, personally, I like that, I don't mind that.
But as I also feel that if you weren't here and you read this, you wouldn't know what we were doing.
I mean, I think part of the gist of it was, if you had to summarize what we did last time, sort of the big ticket item was, we went through the money items and we said that tonight, we're gonna have the actual votes with the actual presentations.
That didn't show up in the minutes, right?
Yeah, and that's sort of the one concept, if anything should come through, and it didn't, so. And in this case, it's actually pretty important. It's actually, I mean, not that all minutes are important, but here we were inviting people to come, and some of the articles got pulled, so it wasn't as contentious.
But we did get the agenda out reflecting that.
Yeah, yes,
That was my role, I did that.
yes. So, I mean, at a certain level, I like the stream of consciousness better than sort of than action minutes.
Right.
But still, maybe just a tiny bit of post-processing.
Well, then you know what, I think Marilyn's been very open to how do we want them, and I anticipate she'll be at our next meeting. We are planning to meet on the 16th, because that's the night that was available for the actuary and the auditor, and anything we can get in advance of that. We don't have much else on that agenda, so it'd be a good night to, talk about how we want the minutes done and any of those other items.
Okay.
And why don't we just hold on those specific minutes until then, and why don't we have the conversation with the person who generally takes the minutes when she's here?
So our meeting next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, 16th.
I won't be here.
Okay. But that's the, that was not an original date, but that's the date that's available for our invited guests. Now, I was going to keep the meeting of the 23rd as a planning session for our meeting of the 30th, which would be our presentation of the budget and finance report. And unless anybody thinks maybe we can accomplish that on the 16th, then we can get rid of the 23rd. I'll schedule.
Since the 16th is light,
Yes.
you know, and God knows I love coming every single Tuesday. But since the
I know.
16th is light,
Yep.
let's shoot for that.
Okay, then that was my, that was, if I didn't phrase it that way, my operating plan then is.
Well, put it on the agenda.
We'll put it on the agenda if we
And
get
if
it
you-
done.
If you don't get it done, then you don't get
Yeah,
it done.
then,
If you do,
there's our reward for being good newbies next week is to have the 23rd off. If we don't,
I have
then.
no comments on the minutes in that case. Move on.
Is that a motion? No, okay. All right.
So we're meeting next Tuesday.
We are meeting next Tuesday, yes, and I think that went out by email earlier when Bonnie made it clear that that was the night that was available. But our anticipated agenda items would be the meeting with the audit, and what we probably should post that as a joint meeting, wouldn't you think, Steve, for the selectmen and the school committee too? I don't know if there's any, well, maybe not. If there's no votes taking place, we'll just make sure we invite them to come, because we were gonna do that as a joint discussion on the whole OPEB discussion and all the rest of that. So we'll have the auditor, and the actuary on their respective subjects. We'll have it as, we'll invite the selectmen and the school committee to attend. We'll also address the issue of minutes. We'll also do some discussion and leave it open to anybody who wants to give it any thought between now and then about what our presentation will be for our annual presentation on the 30th. And we'll do the planning session for that next week. And if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Well, it's 9:20.